across this country. And this FBI let out on a mission to go out into the ends of the earth and capture 5 top 10 most wanted fugitives. And one of those folks?
Drug dealers, murderers.
4:17 a.m., March 19th, Pacific Time, Portland, Oregon. Federal Command Center. The Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement stands behind a podium flanked by the FBI Regional Director and the DIA Pacific Northwest Task Force Commander. The statement is delivered without emotion, but the weight behind every word is absolute. In the last 72 hours, ICE special agents working in coordination with the FBI, DATF, and Portland Police Bureau's Gang Enforcement Unit have executed simultaneous raids across 31 locations in Portland, Gresham, Beaverton, and East County. 129 firearms have been seized, 17 assault-style rifles, 42 handguns linked to recent violent crimes, 6 modified automatic weapons, 3 addresses contained evidence of arms trafficking operations connected to international smuggling networks, 9 homicides over the past 14 months, including 3 unsolved triple murders, are now being re-investigated under the lens of organized transnational crime. He pauses. The room is silent, except for camera shutters. This is not gang violence. This is not street-level crime. This is systematic infiltration by a foreign criminal enterprise operating with the precision of a military cell. And what we found goes deeper than anyone expected. The Pacific Northwest has always been considered safe, progressive, peaceful. But behind the coffee shops and tech startups and rain-soaked streets, something else was growing. Something violent. Something organized. Something that turned entire neighborhoods into hunting grounds and entire communities into cover. This is the story of how a Somali transnational crime network, operating under the codename Blackhorn Syndicate, turned Portland into one of the most dangerous arms trafficking hubs on the West Coast. How they used migrant smuggling routes, shell nonprofits, and community trust to build an empire. How they executed triple murders to silence witnesses. And how one man, a fictional crime boss named Abdi Yusuf Hassan, disguised himself as a community leader while coordinating gun shipments, human trafficking, and contract killings from a corner office in Northeast Portland. If you think you know what corruption looks like, you are not ready for this, because what federal agents discovered was not just a criminal network, it was a parallel system, a shadow infrastructure built to move weapons, narcotics, and people across state lines without a trace. And it had been operating in plain sight for over 6 years. Let me show you how deep it goes. 3:58 a.m. Northeast Portland. The streets are empty. Fog rolls in from the Willamette River, thick and cold, wrapping around chain-link fences and graffiti-covered warehouses. No traffic, no voices, just the low hum of distant freight trains and the occasional flicker of a dying streetlight. Then the silence breaks. 4 black Suburbans roll in without headlights. Behind them, 2 armored ICE tactical units in full combat gear. Behind them, Portland Police Bureau, SWAT vans, and unmarked FBI sedans. They do not announce. They do not knock. They move like a coordinated strike force, because that is exactly what they are. The first target is a 2-story house on Northeast Killingsworth Street. Bars on the windows, reinforced door, security cameras aimed at every angle, the kind of place that does not want visitors. Flashbang, door ram, breach. ICE agents pour in with rifles raised, red laser dots cutting through the smoke and darkness. Voices shouting commands in English and Somali. Suspects scrambling, diving toward duffel bags, reaching for weapons under couch cushions. 3 men try to run out the back. They do not make it 10 feet before they are face down in the wet grass, zip-tied and silent. Inside, agents find what they came for and more. 73 firearms stacked in plastic bins like tools in a hardware store. Glock 19s, Smith & Wesson M&Ps, AR-15 rifles with the serial numbers filed off, 2 modified AK-47s with drum magazines, boxes of 9mm and 5.56 ammunition stacked floor to ceiling. And in the kitchen, behind a false panel in the wall, they find 3 kilograms of uncut cocaine, 2 kilograms of black tar heroin, and over 8,000 fentanyl pills pressed to look like Percocet. But that is not the worst part. On the dining room table, agents find a black laptop, still open, still warm, still logged in, and on the screen is a spreadsheet. Names, addresses, dates, shipment codes, routes, from Portland to Seattle, from Seattle to Vancouver, from Vancouver back down through Tacoma and into Northern California. Each entry time-stamped, each entry tied to a firearm serial number, each entry signed off with a single encrypted username, ghost_command. The lead ICE agent stares at the screen and keys his radio. We have a network. This is not local. Repeat, this is not local. We need cyber forensics now. 4:19 a.m., Gresham, Oregon. Second breach. Another house. Another cache. This time it is 41 handguns, 12 shotguns, and a shipping manifest for firearm parts ordered from overseas suppliers and routed through fake business addresses. The suspects here are younger, teenagers, early 20s. They do not resist. They just stare at the floor. One of them whispers in Somali. The translator repeats it in English. He says we were just holding them. He says the man who pays us never comes here. He says we do not know his real name. But they know the code name. They all know the code name. Abdi Yusuf Hassan, also known as the broker, also known as Uncle Abdi. To the community, also known as ghost_command to the network. And the agents are about to learn that this man is not just a crime boss, he is an architect. 7:32 a.m. FBI Pacific Northwest Cyber Forensics Lab, downtown Portland. A sterile room filled with monitors, hard drives, and analysts who have not slept since the raids began. They crack the encryption on the seized laptop in under 3 hours. What they see makes them call in the U.S. Attorney's Office immediately. The screen fills with a network diagram, not a simple chart, a multi-layered operational map with nodes, routes, and financial pipelines that stretch across 6 states and 3 countries. The operation has a name: Project Iron Coast. At the center of it all is a shell company called Pacific Gateway Community Services, a registered 501c3 nonprofit that claims to provide job training and refugee resettlement support. On paper, it looks legitimate. It has a website. It has a board of directors. It has grants from state housing programs and federal migrant assistance funds. But in reality, Pacific Gateway is a front, a financial engine designed to launder arms trafficking money, funnel cash from human smuggling operations, and provide cover for a weapons distribution network that moves firearms from straw purchasers in Idaho and Montana into the hands of gang members and cartel affiliates in California, Nevada, and Arizona. The analysts trace the money. Wire transfers from Pacific Gateway flow into shell accounts in Kenya, Somalia, and Dubai. From there, the funds are routed back through cryptocurrency exchanges, then into U.S. business accounts disguised as consulting fees, logistics payments, and community grants. The total laundered over the past 4 years exceeds $19 million. But the money is only part of the picture. Deeper in the files, agents find internal communications. Encrypted messages between ghost_command and over a dozen individuals across the Pacific Northwest. They are discussing shipment schedules. They are discussing border crossings. They are discussing migrant smuggling routes used to move firearms hidden inside cargo vans, traveling with groups of asylum seekers. They are discussing how to time deliveries with ICE enforcement gaps and how to pay off truck drivers, warehouse managers, and dock workers. And then they find the murder files. 3 separate folders, each one labeled with a date, each one containing surveillance photos, addresses, and execution notes. The first folder is from November 2023, a triple homicide in outer southeast Portland. 3 men shot execution style in a parked car. No witnesses, no arrests. Case went cold. The second folder is from February 2024. Another triple murder. This time in a basement apartment in North Portland. All 3 victims were Somali immigrants. All 3 had worked as drivers for Pacific Gateway. All 3 had started talking to someone they should not have been talking to. The third folder is from August 2024. A family, mother, father, teenage son, found dead in their home in Beaverton, staged to look like a home invasion. But the file shows it was not. It was a targeted hit. The father had discovered shipment records while working security at a logistics company. He had made copies. He had planned to go to the police. He never made it. Every murder was ordered. Every murder was financed. Every murder was carried out by hired contractors who were paid through Pacific Gateway's encrypted payroll system. And every order came from Ghost_Command. One of the FBI analysts leans back in his chair and says it out loud. This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. This guy is not hiding from the system. He is using the system. The supervising agent nods. Get me everything on Abdi Yusuf Hassan.
I want addresses. I want associates. I want every business he touched. And I want warrants ready by noon. Because the operation is no longer about stopping a crime ring. It is about dismantling an empire. And the worst part, they are just getting started. 11:43 a.m., ICE Pacific Northwest Regional Command Center, a converted federal building in downtown Portland.
Inside, over 200 federal agents from ICE, FBI, D, ATF, and U.S. Marshals Service are gathered in a joint task force briefing. On the main screen is a digital map of Oregon and Washington. Dozens of red markers pulse across the screen. Each one represents a location tied to Project Iron Coast. Each one is a target. The operation commander steps forward. His voice is steady. His orders are clear. Operation Iron Coast ends today. We have identified 47 priority targets across Portland, Beaverton, Hillsborough, Salem, Eugene, Seattle, and Tacoma. We have arrest warrants for 63 individuals. We have seizure warrants for 18 properties. We have financial freeze orders for 22 shell companies and nonprofit fronts. This is the largest coordinated takedown of a transnational crime network in Pacific Northwest history. He clicks to the next slide. A photo of Abdi Yusuf Hassan appears. Mid-40s, Somali immigrant, U.S. citizen, registered business owner, community organizer, and according to federal intelligence, the operational commander of the Blackhorn Syndicate. This man has been operating in Portland for over 8 years. He entered the country as a refugee in 2012. He built a reputation as a community advocate. He ran job fairs. He spoke at city council meetings. He was invited to the governor's office to discuss refugee integration, and while he was shaking hands with politicians, he was coordinating arms, trafficking, human smuggling, and contract killings. The room is silent. His network moved an estimated 400 firearms per year into criminal markets. He used migrant smuggling routes to hide weapons shipments. He paid corrupt truck drivers and warehouse staff to bypass inspections. He ordered the executions of 9 people who threatened to expose him. And he did it all while pretending to be a pillar of the community. The commander looks around the room. We go in at 1400 hours. No delays, no leaks. We hit every location at once. This ends now. 2:03 p.m. The raids begin. Across Portland and beyond, federal tactical teams move simultaneously. ICE agents in armored vehicles. FBI SWAT teams in black fatigues. ATF breach units with battering rams. U.S. Marshals coordinating air support with helicopters circling key zones. At a warehouse in outer southeast Portland, agents smash through a loading dock door and find a mobile gun shop. Over 90 firearms displayed on racks like merchandise. Boxes of ammunition. Suppressors. Extended magazines. 2 men inside drop to their knees without a fight. They know it is over. At a house in northeast Portland, agents discover a human trafficking staging area. 14 migrants locked in a basement. Fake IDs being prepared. Cash bundled in envelopes. The operation was using asylum seekers as cover for moving firearms and narcotics across state lines. The migrants had no idea they were part of a smuggling convoy. At a storage unit in Hillsborough, agents find server equipment, encrypted hard drives, and financial records for Pacific Gateway Community Services. They also find 3 handguns connected to the Beaverton triple murder. In Seattle, coordinated ICE and FBI units hit 2 addresses tied to the network's northern distribution cell. They seize 37 firearms, 2 kilograms of methamphetamine, and arrest 5 suspects who were preparing a shipment bound for Vancouver. In Tacoma, agents raid a logistics company that was paid to falsify manifests and allow weapons-loaded cargo vans to pass through weigh stations without inspection. The company owner is arrested on the spot. And in Salem, Oregon, at a quiet residential address registered to Pacific Gateway Community Services, federal agents find Abdi Yusuf Hassan himself. He is sitting at a desk in a home office. Calm, composed. He does not run. He does not resist. He simply closes his laptop and says, "I want my lawyer." But it does not matter. The laptop is seized. The office is searched. And inside a locked filing cabinet, agents find the smoking gun. Printed records of every arms deal, every payment, every shipment, every execution order, signed, dated, documented. He thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. By the time the sun sets, the operation has seized 129 firearms, over 15 kilograms of narcotics, $400,000 in cash, and enough financial evidence to dismantle the entire network. 63 arrests. 18 properties secured. The Black Horn Syndicate is shattered. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than it did in the last 6 years. But the story does not end with the arrests. Because when investigators start digging into the corruption, they find something even more disturbing. Over the next 72 hours, federal agents comb through seized servers, emails, financial logs, and internal communications. What they discover is a web of complicity that reaches into law enforcement, local government, and immigration bureaucracy. They find records showing that Pacific Gateway paid over $200,000 to 3 immigration case coordinators who fast-tracked certain asylum applications and delayed enforcement actions against network members. These coordinators gave the syndicate advance warnings about ICE operations and altered databases to scrub criminal flags from migrant records. They find evidence that 4 Portland Police Bureau officers accepted cash payments to ignore patrol zones where arms deals were taking place. One officer received $15,000 over 2 years to look the other way during suspected trafficking stops. Another was paid to leak raid schedules to associates of Abdi Yusuf Hassan. They find internal emails from a deputy chief in a suburban police department who received campaign donations from Pacific Gateway for his brother's city council run. In exchange, he made sure gang enforcement units avoided certain neighborhoods and delayed responses to calls in areas controlled by the network. And they find logs showing that border inspections along the I-5 corridor near the Canadian border were mysteriously reduced during the exact time windows when the syndicate's smuggling convoys were scheduled to pass through. This was not negligence. This was coordination. One ICE investigator puts it this way: we were not just fighting a crime network. We were fighting a second system, a parallel enforcement structure that protected criminals and punished the honest. This was infiltration at every level. Within a week, 4 more arrests are made. 2 immigration officials, 2 police officers, 1 city contractor who helped Pacific Gateway secure federal grants.
All of them are charged with conspiracy, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The badge will be rebuilt, but the damage is already done. Zoom out.
Portland is just one city, but the reach of Project Iron Coast stretched far beyond Oregon. Federal analysts reconstruct the network's logistics and find something chilling. The Blackhorn Syndicate was not just operating in the Pacific Northwest. It had cells in Minneapolis, Columbus, Nashville, and San Diego. It had partnerships with Mexican cartel affiliates in Tijuana who provided cocaine and fentanyl in exchange for firearms smuggled south. It had connections to East African smuggling networks that moved people, weapons, and cash across continents. The firearms seized in Portland were destined for gang markets in California. The fentanyl pills found in stash houses were traced back to cartel labs in Sinaloa. The human trafficking routes used to move migrants were the same routes used to move guns. Everything was connected. Everything was designed to be invisible. Agents estimate that the network moved over 400 firearms per year into criminal hands. They estimate that the syndicated human smuggling operation generated over $2 million annually. They estimate that the arms trafficking pipeline supplied weapons used in at least 37 violent crimes across 5 states. And at the center of it all was one man. A man who used community trust as a shield. A man who spoke about helping refugees while trafficking them. A man who attended city council meetings while ordering executions. Abdi Yusuf Hassan built an empire on a lie. And he almost got away with it. But one encrypted laptop, one set of seized files, one coordinated federal operation, and the entire structure collapsed. So what does this mean? It means that power does not always need violence. Sometimes it just needs silence. Sometimes it just needs people to look the other way. Sometimes it just needs a respectable face and a nonprofit logo and a handshake with the right politician. It means that infiltration does not look like an invasion. It looks like a community center. It looks like a jobs program. It looks like someone you trust. And it means that when systems are designed to be compassionate, there will always be someone willing to exploit that compassion for profit. This is not just a story about crime. This is a story about what happens when trust is weaponized, when immigration systems are corrupted, when community leadership is a cover, when murder is just another line item in a business ledger. 9 people are dead because they threaten this network. Hundreds of illegal firearms flooded American streets because of this network. Families were torn apart, neighborhoods were destroyed, lives were lost to fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin that came through the same routes as the guns. And it all happened in a city that thought it was safe. But here is the thing. This story is fictional. A dramatization. A warning. Because while the names are invented, the methods are real. The tactics are real. The corruption is real. Transnational crime networks do not announce themselves. They adapt. They infiltrate. They build systems within systems. And they count on people not paying attention. If you are still watching, tap like so more people see this story. Comment expose if you want corruption like this dragged into the light. Share this so your city does not become the next target. Because the next operation might not be fictional. The next network might already be operating in your neighborhood. The next crime boss might already be shaking hands with your mayor. And if no one is watching, no one will stop them. This is what infiltration looks like. This is what silence costs. And this is why we cannot look away. Stay awake, stay aware, and demand the truth. Because power loves the dark. And the only way to fight it is to turn on the light.